Hey D&D fam, I'm Quick.
And I'm Lee, and you're listening to
Divas and Ducats. So what is a diva? I think divas get a bad rep, but to me, diva is all about the attitude.
As for Ducat, it's your finances, your assets, Skrilla, guap, your coin. We're talking all things with the potential to affect your pockets.
And while we're attorneys by trade, we are divas by choice. Divas and Ducats is for edutainment purposes.
Y'all, we are not Series 511 or 703 professionals. This does not create a financial advisor or attorney-client relationship. The views expressed here are solely our opinions and the opinions of our guests.
It's just our opinion, y'all. Okay, divas, let's talk Ducats.
Hey, D&D fam. How y'all doing?
Thank you for tuning in and welcome back. Thank you for all of those who are joining us on the podcast. And if you are listening to Apple and you have been enjoying us, do you know that you can leave a rating on Divas and Ducats on the Apple podcast? So we would love for you to go over there and give us some stars. And if you're watching here on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe below, hit that bell so that when new episodes come out, you can be notified.
All right. So we are back, and on our Diva docket today, we're talking about In a Rut versus reality. And we thought it would be good to do because at this point, we're like knee deep into the second quarter. We're past the point where, you know, we all made those rosy, these are my year goals, top of the year, got it going, and then
past the 90 days.
Yes. Now we're at the point where maybe, you know, fell off the bandwagon a little bit, or things aren't quite gelling the way that you thought they were. So, you know, you might just be a little stuck. And so we thought we could really talk through some of that, unpack some of that, and even, you know, share some of our experiences and like maybe things that might help you to kind of, you know, get back on your way.
Yeah, for sure. I do think that consistency and determination and all of those things, you know, like you said, when you're starting out the new year, to be able to say one thing, and it's not just the, you know, new year, you could be carrying over things from last year, you know, just being able to get to it, and then you just get into a mental block, right? You have that superpower and that energy and all of those things that maybe the first week, first 2 weeks, sometimes even, you know, they say do anything for 30 days and it becomes a habit. Doesn't mean it becomes easy at all, right? But sometimes people just get into these mental blocks. I think writers call it writer's block, and, you know, artists have it as well. But you just get into a mental block, and like, everything just starts becoming, you just get easily distracted.
Or it's just a lot of effort.
Yeah, it's just a lot of effort, right? And then we're still in, you know, 2022, we're starting to go back into the office. If, you know, if you're corporate, and things are starting to change where when 2021, 2020, you had COVID, and a lot of those
we still have COVID.
Right, but they're not allowing it to be used as such a
they're pushing us
anymore.
Back out.
Right, they're pushing us back out. They're taking masks off in school. But, you know, COVID still exists. People still have those very real fears and of that, but the society in the world and the rules and regulations are saying, okay, it's time for you to get over it, right? But that could also be like a mental block, especially if, you know, like with us, we were corporate and worked in our offices at home for so long, and you became productive and you had your systems and you still had your freedoms, and now it's like, go back into the office, go back into structure, and it's like, whoa, what do you mean?
I had a plan, and this was working for me.
Right.
And even to your point, you mentioned a mental block about being easily distracted. I think something that I noticed more, and it in office or out of office hasn't really changed, but like what I've noticed is that once COVID hit, it felt like I was distracted a lot easier. And I think some of it, at first, I got to the point where I didn't watch the news as much. But, you know, when COVID first kind of hit the U.S. scene.
Right, of course.
It was like all you could do is watch the news and what's the newest thing and and you're just constantly inundated not only with information, but it changes all the time. And so you're constantly having to be adaptive. And okay, now this is the rule. Now this is the rule. They went from, if you're positive 10 days, now you quarantine 10 days to 5 days. So I think all of those changes and nothing really being stable or feeling stable, for me, for a while, I really struggled with, like, I feel like I could not focus on a thing for a long period of time. Yeah. And so...
And then that also created anxiety, not knowing, like, what the thing is or what the rules is. I know especially for me, just trying to get into a routine, and then with having a son in school, like for the better part of the beginning of 2022, because of the way COVID was, my son had not been vaccinated yet. So even though he was not getting COVID, every time somebody in his class had it, those who were not vaccinated stay home. So for the better part of the beginning of 2022, my son maybe was in class 6 days within 3 months. And it was just like every week, it was so creating so much anxiety.
It's hard for you to get into work, and you got to worry about, your kids at home. So, I think for me, one of the things, and sometimes there aren't solutions, so I don't want to say this and be flip about it, but I try to think of solutions or at least try when I list out problems, right? So one of the things that I will say has helped me a little bit, even though I do still have moments where I'm just everywhere, is to make a list. Right. So what I do, whether it's work or just personal things that I'm trying to get done, is every day I have a list of 3 or 4 things that are priority. Do these 3 or 4 things. Now, I know a lot of us like to be super, especially type A's, you like to feel like I got 10, 12 things that we're in a different world now. Right. So if you got, it doesn't have to be 3, 4, maybe 5 things that you can get done today.
3 is sufficient.
It is. But it's overachievers.
Right.
Or that you could at least start on today. Obviously, huge projects, that's going to take several steps. So what I do before I log off for the day is I'll take a sticky note, and I might write the date and say, these tick and tack 3, 4 things that for work I have to accomplish tomorrow. Or same thing for, any other thing I have going on outside of work. It's I'll have that separately. 3, 4 these, you go get these 3, 4 things done. So you do have that sense of accomplishment, even though you feel mentally I kind of went from here to here to here. So
I just knew you was about to say, you said SMART goals.
You know how I feel about SMART goals. But no, I was just gonna say that, and then it'll help you with the concept of just getting started, right? Because sometimes that's the hardest step. It's I'm everywhere, I got 1,000 things to do, I feel 24 hours have passed and nothing got done. If you combine that with that concept of just getting started, with having that little list, it's you did do something today. You did, you should feel a sense of accomplishment and not beat yourself up, because we are still in a pandemic. Things aren't normal. I don't know when they will be normal.
The new normal, right? Yeah.
That part. So, I really think if you're having those mental blocks, to maybe try those 2 things and see how that works out for you.
Yeah. And I also think, like you said, just sometimes the hardest thing can be the first step, right? And just thinking about it sometimes, instead of just taking it, creates so much anxiety sometimes, like you said, just take the first step. And then also with being in a rut, it can also create, like you said, that gives you a sense of accomplishment. So when you don't feel accomplished and you feel I haven't done anything, it can also lead into areas of depression where I'm not going to get anything done anyway. Let me just stay in bed. And then you feel bad for staying in bed and not doing anything. Cycle. Right. Yeah. And it could just lead to other things. I do think that when you are stuck in a rut, a very important thing to not create so much anxiety is to stop taking on other people's stuff.
There's that.
And stop taking on other. You try to get out for your own stuff. Sometimes no is a complete sentence. Yeah. And you have to be able to tell people no. I can't handle it right now. It's okay. Yeah. And sometimes that alone, because a lot of times your stuff just got you in a rut. It's always trying to figure out how am I going to juggle my regular life with everything I done promised somebody else to do, right? So I think
And you could change your mind. You could say, at the time I could do it, but right now I don't have the bandwidth.
And
I don't have capacity. And
and let that be that, and that's okay. And it doesn't mean you don't keep your word and all these other things.
Its circumstances have changed, and I have reevaluated my ability to dive into this
for sure.
And want to point out there is a difference between you just kind of in a funk, just kind of need a little pick me up, and anxiety, depression. Right. If you are at the point where whether you feel more so along the depression lines or the anxiety lines, if it is affecting your ability to function throughout the day and to take steps, and it is affecting your everyday life, please take advantage of, if your job has those employee assistance programs where you could get, I know some are like anywhere from 5 to 10 free sessions with a therapist. If not, there are several therapy websites. We'll, try to have a few in our episode notes where you can talk to someone. Most mental health professionals work on a sliding scale, so they can work with you in terms of just, where you are financially. But yes, definitely reach out, talk to someone, see what tools or resources that they can help you tap into to get you in a space where you are better and you are well, because there is a difference, Right. So if it's affecting you, your everyday life and your ability to function, then definitely tap into those resources. Yeah.
And so, thinking about those top of the year goals, right? Usually it's about getting better in finances and getting better at, physical health.
Yep.
And so, let's talk about, because I think they are so closely aligned in how you achieve success in both, whatever that success looks like to you, like whatever that goal is for you. I think they are so closely aligned in what you have to do. Like you said, you have to set goals, you have to set steps, you have to be consistent. Whether it's budgeting or whether it's working out, you have to be consistent. You have to take inventory of what you're doing, but especially with not especially, but with losing weight. You can take inventory of your food and write those goals down. When you're budgeting, write down your bills. I just think they're so closely aligned. And for some, for me, the finances part is a lot easier just because of how I was raised, right? It's something that I naturally do.
Habit.
But I have struggled most of my adult life with trying to balance my weight and being, where I want it to be, even though they are closely aligned. But when I started thinking about it, if you can handle finances, you can handle the physical journey. It's just transferring over those steps, so to talk about a little bit about the physical journey, because we're both on it, but talk about a little bit of the physical journey of how you got out the rut. And even when you were in a rut, what were you feeling, and what was that thing that made you be like, okay, enough is enough?
Yeah. So for me, to your point, I have never been a small person. I'm short, but not small. So that's always been a thing. I think it certainly didn't help. I had family members, I'll be completely honest, that, I always need to point out, if you gained some weight, you lost some weight. Oh, you lost some weight, now you gained it. So there was also, to some extent, anxiety going into settings where you're going to be around family, because you kind of know. And, tried all the diets, all the fads, all the things. And I got to a point where I feel like it was, it might have been around late 2019, basically almost 2020. And I got to a point where I was just tired of you'll lose maybe 10, 15 and then be in a rut, and then you'll, gain it back. And so I got to the point where I said, okay, I'm going to check this trainer out. A friend of mine, he wasn't training anymore, but he recommended, who's now my current trainer. And I said, I'm going to try this out, and I'm going to give it my all. And if this don't work, then I'm just going to be comfortable being a BBW. Right. I'm just going to be a big girl. I'm going to own it, and that's going to be what it is. And for me at the time, I was a 16, and that's not to say, I want y'all to know, every 16 is not the same. Right. I am 5'2". So for me, at my height, a 16 was on the thicker, more plus size look. I was just fluffy. It is what it is. Now, if you're a taller chick, a 16 looks totally different. So me saying I was a 16 is not saying oh, that's automatically whatever. I don't want anyone to have no feelings about that. But for me, my frame, a 16 was a bigger look. And so I was just like, I'm gonna sit in that. I'm gonna be a 16. I'm gonna be a healthy girl. Like, it's cool, because for me, an important thing to point out is my numbers were good. Like, I never had high blood pressure, never had cholesterol issues. So all of those were fine. It was just my appearance was what it was. And so got with that trainer and did see some loss at first, and then the same rep. And so this time, that trainer kind of sat with me and we talked about some things, and he was like, I think you should maybe get some blood work done. And I had never just never thought to do it. So went to, during my annual appointment, talked to the OB, and was just, we talked through even like down to birth control, because I ended up, what I have is called PCOS, it's polycystic ovarian syndrome. And so it's essentially a hormonal imbalance, but it's cyclical. So one of the main symptoms is you have an irregular menstrual cycle, and the hormone imbalance causes you, it's a hard time losing weight stays on you. But the funny thing is, what will help regulate your menstrual cycle is for you to lose weight. So it's a whole just vicious cycle. And so one of the telltale signs besides that is elevated testosterone, which I didn't know. So even now, I periodically get my testosterone checked, because when I experience a rut, if I'm doing everything I need to do food-wise and exercise-wise, it's usually the answer. It's your testosterone's elevated. We have to figure out how to get it lower. And so I think knowing that for me was like a release. It's not to say you don't want things to be wrong with you, but I think all my life I felt like almost just like crazy, lazy. Like just and you get those messages because people associate bigger frames and being fat with, oh, you just eat too much, you're not disciplined, etc. And it's like, I actually, most of the time when I run into ruts, I'm not eating enough. Right. And so, it was almost freeing to know, like, no, this is, your body will do the thing you want it to do, but it needs some help. It needs some adjustments. And even now, I recently got my testosterone checked because I hit another plateau, and I'm in a space where I want to lose another 10, 15 because I want to tone up a little bit more. Right. And so it was like, okay, here we go again. We got to make some more adjustments. Right. So for me, that switch, as you called it, was once I knew, like, I had the motivation then to be like, okay, we could do the thing. Your body's not rejecting you. It just needs something different than most people. You know, most people in a week might drop anywhere from 2, 3, some drop more than 5 pounds in a week. My body's not going to do that. And that's okay. So I think, like, that's really what did it for me. But like you said, a lot of it is a mental switch, even with finance. Like, what I struggled with, especially through college in my 20s, like swiping that card and paying the minimum and be like, okay, whatever. Yeah. And I think for me, I had to connect my mind with, like, that retail therapy. Like, I would, if I felt bad, go buy something. Right. And having the wherewithal to identify, like, what makes you make those financial decisions, what makes you put yourself in that bind. And a lot of it was either worrying about what other people thought, trying to look like more than what I was, or I don't feel good. How some people stress eat. I don't feel good today. I'm gonna go buy something. Exactly. So that's why I said it's so closely aligned. Like you said, some people do. They shop therapy. They eat bad or eat sweets or whatever because they're feeling some kind of way. And it's something that you just have to be aware of, because all of us buy stuff. It's like, you don't even need that. What was the point? Oh my god! So like all of us have to be aware of that. And I think even now when I do it, at least I try to put a certain dollar amount on it. Like, okay, you just want to buy something, girl, this is what we're gonna spend. Here's a splurge account. Right. So even being cognizant of that. So that was kind of it for me. And I know you had kind of experience in terms of, like, the pandemic, and you kind of, like, what was your funk and switch for you? Because you've been doing your why, thank you. For me, so I gained 40 pounds in the last 3 years, and definitely two of those 3 years was dealing with COVID. I think a lot of the anxiety from COVID, just not being able to go. I wasn't gonna say not being able to go to a gym, but
the gym hasn't. I've always had a gym membership and still have a gym membership, and I always think about it every time that gets drafted out of my account. When's the last time you've been to a gym? Like, but I just won't cut it off because it's only $10. But and I'm like, one day my son might need it.
Then you don't want to join again.
Right, it'd be like $30.
Yeah,
right. So I just don't cut it off. But anyways, so I can't necessarily blame it on that because I've done home workouts for so long.
You're really good at that.
I have dumbbells and kettlebells and pull-up bars. So I have that kind of stuff at home. And Lord knows I have the programs that I can watch. Peloton and before it was Beachbody and got it all. So I can't necessarily blame it on the gym, but there was still a lack of motivation to work out. And being honest, obviously, if you've been watching, you notice that I'm no longer engaged. Just getting out of a relationship where it was a great relationship for what it served its purpose for, but there were definitely times neither one of us were happy, right? So when I ended that, and I realized that a lot of that weight I put on because, again, stress eating, anxiety eating, not necessarily being happy, not feeling like I had control, and I still did it. And I was like, I align it to, a person that, because I think we talked about it before, like judging someone that uses drugs, right?
Yeah.
Them putting something bad in their body that they know is killing them, but we do the same thing with food.
Yeah.
We do the same exact thing with foods, and I knew I needed to drink more water, but I substituted for, I'm not really a soda drinker, but juice, give it to me. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Alcohol, wine, whatever, give it to me with the mixer. Like, you can't just give me, vodka. I need vodka and pineapple juice.
Some cranberry.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but I knew those things were literally making me sick and having headaches. But when I started doing the right, like, me not having that headache every single morning is just worth it to just keep pushing. And I have hard days, but I have accountability partners, and you just have to figure out, like, as you're getting out of that rut, like, bringing in people that will hold you accountable and finding out who they are. Some people could do the journey with you, some people can't, and you can't be offended for those that can't because they're not there yet, right? But you find that person, and I do think that also helps with getting out of a rut too. Yeah,
and to your point, I think whether it's physical, financial, maybe you're studying for something, whatever it is, I think when you mention like the 5:30 a.m., like figure out to your point about the rut, like what time of day are you most productive? Because everyone is different. Like most of my friends, my mom, like y'all like that. Oh, I'm gonna work out in the morning. I am solid on that 6 p.m.
Right.
That's my time. Right. Like, I like to do it, and to your point, it never... I heard someone in the, because I do personal training, but there's usually a boot camp going on while I'm there. And I heard someone the other day ask, like, so when does it get to the point where you're like, when does this get easier? And it's like, it's not so much that you get in better shape. So you're able to do certain things. You'll notice your wind is better or certain things like that. But the whole fitness is a journey. You're never, there's really no, I won't say there's no destination because you have goals, but there's always a next level. So even when something is easier, well, now it's time to up the weight.
Right.
Now it's time to
do more push-ups.
Yeah. So it's like, it never gets to that point where you're like, this was a breeze.
Right.
But figuring out that time, like you said, like I said, regardless of if it is a physical goal or a educational goal, if you're trying to, maybe you want a new job, whatever it is that you're having to dedicate time to and getting out of a rut and going and doing the thing, figure out what time of day you're most productive. Because me trying to do something at 5:30 a.m., I'm setting myself up for failure. I'm going to find every reason not to do that at 5:30 a.m.
And then you'll be upset with yourself.
Right. Whereas other people feel like, I'm not waiting until 5 o'clock at night to do something. So everybody has it, even with like work stuff, everybody has that period where it's like, I'm in a zone and this is the best time for me to do this. So like even that might help you and not beat yourself up as much. So and
then I also think like some of the things that keep us in a rut is, like you said, not being able to take that first step, but also just thinking past, right? Always we talk about depression, and that's past thinking, right? Always being sad about something that has already occurred. And I was recently, reading one of my Bible plans, and it was called "Letting Go of Should." And you think about like, this is the way I thought my life would be, and this should have been how it happened. I was engaged. I should have been married this year. No, those things, like letting go of what is it, your reality, can keep you stuck, right? But you can't change you could change your reality for sure, but you can't change what has happened in the past. What happened in the past is usually a lesson to teach you, to guide you somehow, if you're willing to look at it that way, as something to prepare you for a different future, right? So like just letting go of what should have been and embracing, well, this is what is and what can I do with it.
Yeah. And I think especially as a woman, I think a lot of women struggle with this concept, because I did what I think a lot of women do. Like I had this in my mind plan that probably around 2021 developed. And I just said like, okay, I'm going to go to law school. I'm going to graduate at 25. I'm going to get married.
Yes, check.
I'm going to have kids around like 28, 31, and then maybe that third possible around 34.
Right.
And that's going to be my life. And I'm going to, work in legal, and everything's going to be great, blah, blah, blah. The only thing on that list that happened was I graduated at 25 years of age. And I think the moment I had, especially because COVID and the lockdown and all that isolation hit maybe a few months after I purchased my home. And so I think I kind of felt it a little bit around 27, 28, but I was around people. I didn't live alone, so I had more distraction from how that felt to me.
Yeah.
But I think it really hit moving into my home. I was, 32? And feeling like really having a moment of, I have this house and no one's in it but me. And I really struggled with that whole thing of like, I thought when I pictured myself having a home, like I pictured also having a partner. I pictured having maybe some kids, and that wasn't it. And so I think, like I said, add the pandemic on top of that, like I really struggled. Like I am very honest about around summer 2020, my mental health was not in the best place. Like I had to go hardcore therapy because I was a little fragile. And so I think one of the things, to your point of like what should, that helped me was thinking about the change of perspective of what is, because what is isn't necessarily negative, even though it's not what you thought would be. So I also sometimes think, and like, who better to big yourself up than you? So every now and then I do think like I might be like coming back from walking my dog and I'm just like looking at my house and I'll be like, yo, me and God did this thing. Like I did not need, and I'm not saying this is, a bad thing, but I was like, I didn't need a man to do this with me. Like I was able to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Me and the Lord. And so
it is an accomplishment.
I think when you think about the alternative in a positive sometimes as opposed to a negative, it can be so good. And the thing of like, okay, no, I didn't have them 2 kids and a possible at the point where I thought, but I had so many amazing experiences that I don't know that I would have been able to have having young children, because life does change, and what you're able to do, unless you have, maybe certain income, changes when you have younger kids. So like being able to see the world, being able to like look at some of the places I've been that like my parents and grandparents say like I couldn't dream of going there. Like that is important to me, because you can't take away, you'll never forget experiences like that. And so 2 things can be true. Like you can want those things and they haven't happened for you yet, but it can also be great what's going on right now. So, and I think allowing yourself to feel it, but then also take that moment of, like I said, the different perspective and being able to get yourself out of it. Because there are times where I still do think like, okay, it would be nice to have this, that, and the third. Like, like I still, okay. So like, I still do think about the things that I want, and like you do. I mean, it's human nature. You're like, are those things gonna happen for me? But also being able to be in that mode of like, well, child, I'm in my auntie status, and I'm just gonna come and go like I want in the meantime, in between time, and enjoy that. So like 2 things can be true. You can enjoy your life as it is and want those things, and you don't have to let the desire for those things like paralyze you, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely totally agree with you. Like feeling like you don't have to be either or, right? Like people, I don't know why sad feelings or even angry, like feeling angry about it is okay.
Yeah.
You know, and being okay with that. And then in the next moment also feeling proud. And it's okay. Like I don't think you should let people make you feel like being sad about a situation or because you're not always happy-go-lucky about a situation make you feel like something is wrong with you.
Yeah.
And I mean, you have the desires of your heart. I feel like God placed those desires of your heart there for a reason. So for sure you're going to think about those things when they're not happening. Like, to be sure, I desire to be married, you know, but I'm not like in a rut, in a funk because, you know, I'm in my 40s and it hasn't happened. Have I been in a rut, in a funk? Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, but in this spirit, in this season, in this moment, I'm not. I'm happy. I'm at peace. And I'm, you know, doing the things that I can control, working out, eating right, being an amazing mother, you know, and doing the things that I can do. So.
And I think it's important when you said that thing about getting back to happy as an individual, because I think we hear a lot of times, and that's not to confuse like what you were saying about like neither one of y'all being happy in a relationship, but you hear a lot of times where people will say like, if so-and-so doesn't make you happy, leave, or such and such. And I'm not saying like ever stay in something abusive or toxic or whatever, but I think if you are not happy by yourself, like it is nobody's responsibility to make you happy. No one can make you happy. They could contribute to it. They can, certain things about their presence in your life can add to it. But like if you aren't happy and you aren't doing the things that, you know, give you peace, that add to your life, that progress you in whatever you're interested in, no person, with you or not, is going to be able to fix that. And I think sometimes people say that happiness thing with a person as if it's their job to make you happy. So I just wanted to be clear. Like, I thought it was really important that you pointed that out, that like I had to get to a point of, because anybody that comes along, if you're not in a space where you know what brings you peace, you know the things that add to your life, it'll be for naught. Like, they're not going to be able to
and it'll be for naught in both ways, because if you don't know what makes you happy, one, they can never contribute to make that increase, right? But then also, if you don't know what makes you happy, then they can come in and whatever makes them happy, you attach to that. And it could be making you unhappy, but you feel like, well, they're happy, so you know, and you're not recognizing the peace that you suddenly no longer have, or you know. So I think it works in both ways. Like, you can't grow from it, and you know, you can't realize, this person is taken away from the happiness that I've already created if you don't have it within yourself first. So
and there is a such thing as I would never think of this little name, but like I've seen things about people say toxic positivity. So what you were saying about not letting people make you feel guilty about being sad, like I feel like we're conditioned in this for whatever reason, the world, like anything besides I am happy, people are like, well, get it together, you know, that we're uncomfortable with that. And so people will say like, well, you should be grateful, well, practice gratitude, and it's like, no one is happy, whether they're in a relationship or not. No one is happy 100% of the time. That is just not life. Like lifes, as we say all the time. And so it's just not, I'm not going to question someone's genuineness, but I don't think it's possible.
It's not genuine.
Okay, well, I'm going to let you, to the people who just, they always happy, everything's all good. Like, I don't think it's possible to be happy 100% of the time. It's been time, I'm single, and I'm going to be real. It's times where I be like, I am not feeling it.
It's not genuine. I mean, I have lived that. It is not genuine. I feel like, honestly, I feel like that's a lot of reason that people get so depressed.
I think it is, and the anxiety, because they feel like they have to perform.
With anxiety, suicide. It's people that's just always laughing and always smiling and always feeling they have to make everybody else happy, like you said, and always have to be on and always have to be performing, and nothing is ever wrong, and they can't ever talk about bad things or show emotions of crying and being upset. Like, they crash. Like, that is hard. That is hard. Some days I just be doing gospel yoga and start crying. Like, release all these like, release these emotions. So, no, that is not genuine. It's just not genuine.
And I've done the same. I remember it was, like I said, when I was, like, intense therapy, because I was like, oof. And I remember telling her, like, I was just, because one of the things, I don't know, true Taurus fashion, I like an ambiance. And so one of the things I do for me is like every now and then I will run myself a bath. I light the little candles. I put on my little speaker. And I just had me a little wine. I have one of those boards that go across the bathtub, so you can do that. It has a book, a little setting for the book. Of course it does. Of course. So I like it was just like R&B or neo soul, like it was that kind of vibe, very chill. And I remember I just was like ugly crying,
bawling.
Like it started off fine, and eventually I was ugly crying. And I remember saying to my therapist, I was just in there, and it just, I just broke down. I just felt like I said it as if I trapped myself in that space. And she was like, or did you need the space to do that? Release. And it was just like, that's real. And so there are times, even now, like I said, for the most part, I'm happy. But there are times whether it's overwhelmed, whatever the emotions are, where you just need a good cry. You need to just let that thing on out. And move on.
And I don't think it has to be about sadness. Like sometimes it could literally be, I cry because of gratitude. Like just
it could be
really being
anything.
thankful.
Gratitude. It could be stress. It could be this song to this day. It's an old gospel song. I think it's like For Every Mountain. And of course, Never Would Have Met. Those songs can make me bawl at the drop of
happiest
and it's like I'm fine, but the words, when you think about, when you listen to the words, it's like that kind of thing. So like you said, sometimes you need a release, and it might not be sadness per se. You might just have a lot of stress. It might be whatever.
And don't even realize it sometimes how much you're carrying and being on go. Like I said, you're right. Like I feel like I'm just on go, and sometimes it just comes, if you will allow it to. It will come out, and the release will feel so much better. Then you're not flipping out on people.
You could get up and be like, okay, I
got strength for another day.
I'm good. So like I think, like, try not to allow this world to catch you up in there, because there's plenty of relationship gurus, positivity gurus, where like anything besides happy, it makes you, they make you, it's almost like you're shamed for it. And like,
for sure. For sure. So we hope this helps you. Like you say, your reality, sometimes your reality isn't what you think it is. And that's, where a therapist could come in and help you see things from a different perspective. But also, just if you are in a rut, accept things for kind of what they are, and realize that you have the power and control to change them for the better. You do have the control. You do have the power, and you can make changes. You just have to largely mentally get there and find the things that help you get there. Sometimes, like you say, yours, is a nice tub. Every 2 weeks I go buy myself a beautiful bouquet of flowers. I like flowers, and it was so funny. My son was like, I don't like you buying flowers for yourself. And I said, well, you gonna buy? He said, yes, you can use my account. And I was like,
not charge my account.
Okay, dear future daughter-in-law. Right? But I just like flowers. So whatever your thing is, something to bring you positivity and to get you out of the rut.
Something that makes you feel good.
Yeah, something that makes you feel good. And it doesn't always have to be lavish and trips and all of those things. Sometimes it could be getting off of social media.
Seriously.
And just decompressing, like, and getting out of that comparison thing. And this is, again, letting go of shit.
Whatever it is.
Letting go of shit.
I like self-care. I think people often look at it as like something lavish. Like you said, like, I'm taking a trip, self-care. And like, that's fine. That can be. But I think one of my favorites is what they call easing into your day. I am a person, my mama rolls her eyes at me because she'd be like, I have an aunt who I look more like her than my mom. And she's who got me into that bath thing at like 13. So my mom was just like, you were just the most. And so I feel like it's very much on brand for my aunt that I'm talking about. Like the ease into your day. Like I get up, and for the most part, like obviously if I got a deadline or something, that's different. But like I get up, I love tea. I make myself some tea. Me and my dog, I let my dog out. Like I am not rushing to the computer to get in because to get in that mode. Like I'm going to get into this, have my moment with my tea, and like I probably do need to add like either devotion or motivation. I probably need to add a little spiritual there, but I have my moment, and it might just be like I said, 10-15 minutes, but it makes it easier to get to the work computer, be like, okay,
yeah,
now let's get into it.
I agree.
Instead of just like, oh, let me get
that
up.
rush feeling,
Like, take care of yourself even in those small ways.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't have to be something, like you said, that costs you hundreds of dollars.
Yeah. And like you said, I mean, even in that, sometimes just sitting still, because I realize when I wake my son up earlier to let him have those 10 to 15 minutes to just sit in bed, the morning goes so much smoother than
let's go.
Yeah. Get up. It's just like, so yeah, I think that sometimes that morning, just waking up, but then being able to be still, just think, sit.
Yeah.
It just makes sure.
Collect your thoughts. Get out the fog. Get out the
fog.
Yeah.
And it makes sure your mornings go better. So.
All right, D&D fam. We hope, again, if you're in a rut, we hope you are doing your best, because that's all you can do.
And that is enough, too.
It is.
Yes.
Some days will be better than others.
Yeah.
As we have said, two things could be true. And just, one step at a time, work through your things. We don't have time today for a Dear Diva segment, but if you have questions, comments, concerns, shenanigans, we are divaadvice@gmail.com. That is DIVAADVICE @gmail.com.
Diva advice.
As Quick said, you should have subscribed below if you're watching. But you can also check us out on Facebook and Instagram. We are Divas and Ducats. Website www.divasandducats.com. And those are the things.
So in the meantime, in between time, have a great attitude.
All right, bye.